welcome to our event today, to our wellness event today, discussing women's wellness. For those who don't know me and are watching this in the future, my name is Sharon Copeland, and I do nutrition education in the community for Milwaukee, and I am also a nutrition coach. My main focus is educating people on wellness and healthy lifestyles, which is why we're here today. I want to be able to pull from the wonderful women that I know to be able to share their knowledge of wellness for women. And I'm super excited to hear from them today. So first off, we have Anita Cruz. She has been in the financial service industry since 2013, and she joined Merrill Lynch Wealth Management in 2020. Her focus is helping clients form like long and short-term financial objectives and providing guidance for individuals, families, and businesses. Anita graduated from Northwestern University with a bachelor's in communication, and she's from Milwaukee's very own Marquette University Law School. She's also a really awesome person in the community as she continues to volunteer. Anita, did you want to speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So I I practiced law for about 15 years, and I mainly women. I worked with domestic violence victims, doing a lot of family law and child welfare work, and that's what led me to my current career. Just I saw the need for individuals, especially women, to have financial education. So that's what kind of brought me into the field of being a financial advisor. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's really fun. And I'm sure it's like really intriguing to see all the different kinds of people at different stages in their life. So it's really fun. So next we have Sarah Muhammad. She is also a registered dietitian. She is a dietitian and diabetes educator at Provident Hospital in Bronzeville. And she runs her own private practice named Nutrition with Intention. Her focus is really on functional wellness and being able to help individuals make healthier lifelong changes. She also does so many other really cool projects too. Sarah graduated from Purdue University in dietetics, health, and fitness, and then she completed her internship at Mississippi State University. Sarah, would you like to speak a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so I started as a dietitian almost 6 years ago. So I've been practicing in various settings since then. I started in the community setting. So I worked at a large non-for-profit I'm Chicago-based. So I worked in a large non-for-profit working with the HIV/AIDS population in Chicago through a pantry program. At my second job, I worked mostly in the clinical setting, and I was a facilitator for the CDC's diabetes prevention program. So that led me to my current position, which is at the county hospital in Cook County. And I work in the endocrinology department as a diabetes dietitian. I'm currently working to get my certified diabetes educator title, I guess you could say, to have more specific focus on the diabetes population, because it's very prevalent, especially in the African-American community. And then as far as like other projects that Sharon's talking about, I do have another business aside from my nutrition business. It's called Eats and Beats. And it's a digital media business that I started where I highlight food and music in Chicago and other places, like when I travel. And so I've had a lot of clients throughout the years to help promote their businesses. And just be really positive about food. I think a lot of people think that dietitians, we're like the food police, but I'm the exact opposite. I've been a foodie my entire life. I eat just about any type of cuisine on the planet, and I love showcasing that with people along with the music that I enjoy. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is so fun. I'm like so impressed by how you do your different videos and just all the places that you've gone. Now I know, like, whenever I go to Chicago, I'm like, I should check her page and see like what's the food over there.
Thank you. Yeah, it's so fun. I really enjoy it. And I've been doing that just as long as I've been a dietitian. So I've been able to watch both of those aspects of my life kind of grow together and kind of mesh into each other a lot of times. So it's really nice.
That's awesome. So I'm really excited to also welcome Vanessa Johnson today. She is a reproductive health nurse, a doula birth worker, and the owner of A Miracle Happened Wellness and Birth Services. Her focus is on building like community connections, providing birthmark support, and really helping expecting families. She does a lot of community work as well. She's been an RN for about 15 years. She's a certified lactation specialist and a registered yoga teacher. Hello, Vanessa. Would you like to speak more to your experience?
Hello. Good evening, everyone. So happy to have you for welcoming me. So in a nutshell, it's all about wellness, balance, infusing the holistic health, emotional models of care with the medical model, wearing those two hats, being a registered nurse, but also a doula birth worker. You really have to have that balance. And so my experience comes from, I can even go back to my birth story if we have time. Where I really felt like my mother set the intention for my work. I was a preemie, and she wrote a poem 15 minutes after having me. So if that isn't emotional, medical, like balance all in one, amazing package, I don't know what is. And so, I'm just excited to be here and share and to absorb the positive energy and intentionality behind this webinar. So thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate you all being here. I was kind of chatting beforehand to say, like, it is not possible for me to summarize the vast amount of work and experiences all of you have done, the way that you've impacted your communities, helped families, helped individuals. It truly amazed me to do the research on each of you and to be able to understand more of what you've done. I just have a really large respect for all the work that you've done. And for those who can't really like find other resources, or I haven't like been able to share those resources with you, I do have all of Sarah, Anita, and Vanessa's LinkedIn profiles in the chat. And I'm also going to be able to share the information later on so that way people can hop on, get to know you, get to understand you, and be able to reach out to, get into contact with your services and your resources. So thank you so much for joining me here today and joining us here today. As they know, I sent out a couple of questions because I really want to get to the bottom of what are they passionate about. I would love to see what each woman has to say about, wellness and the things that really touches their heart in the community. So I just want to open up with the question, what are you passionate about when it comes to women's wellness? Anita, would you like to start?
Sure. Sure. So when I think of wellness, I think of financial wellness, of course. And I think the thing that makes me so passionate is that women don't always realize how unique our financial lives are. I prefer to work with women for the most part because there are so many unique aspects to our lives. We tend to not have as long of a work life as our male counterparts. We tend to be the women who take time off to care for our children, to care for others. So we're caregivers. So we may not have as many years to work. And that really impacts things, especially now that most people don't have pensions. That's an old, antiquated, my dad had a pension, but I don't, and most people don't anymore. And women live longer in general than men. And so there's that longevity risk, outliving your money. And so a big safety net for women is, of course, Social Security. And because it is a pension and it's meant to last you for the rest of your lives. And women tend to not pay as much into Social Security because our work lives are not as long. So I'm really passionate about helping women to really see their lives realistically where they're at. I tend to, I work with a lot of really high-powered women, and almost to a one, many of them are saddled with a lot of student loan debt because they've done all the right things, right? They've studied, they've gone to school, they've, like I said, done all of the things that we've been told we need to do, and yet feel like they can't get ahead. And I see a lot of women that have shame around their financial situation. And so I'm really passionate about helping women to feel great about where they're at, take stock and begin to put themselves first, and just start from where they are, because you can get to where you want to go. So the second thing I'm really passionate about is for women to have a financial plan. Everybody needs a financial plan. I think very often once we get into our work lives, we don't have a plan, like where we're trying to get to. We have some vague notions, but we don't actually have a plan on getting to those goals. And so that's super important. And that's really the heart of what I do, is just help people to have a plan to get to where they want to get to. So I think those are the things that I'm passionate about. Women understanding that their financial lives are unique, that they need to have a financial plan, and no matter where they are, they can get to where they want to be if they plan.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny that you mentioned that, Anita, because I work for the county, I actually do have a pension, and I'm probably the only person. I just turned 30. I'm probably the only person that I know that does have a pension because I work for the government.
What a blessing,
man.
Yeah.
So, to go back to your question, Sharon, you asked, what makes us passionate about working with women? For me, it's really just being able to get the information out there in an impactful way. I'm very impact driven. So even when I teach my nutrition classes, it is mostly women that come to the nutrition classes. And a lot of times it's older women in their between their 40s to 60s that are looking to improve their nutrition, lose weight, combination of all those things. And for me, it's really just kind of seeing some of these folks that have had certain long, maybe decades at a time. Some of them are twice my age, they have kids my age. So a lot of times people may get set in their ways as they age. And so for me, it's really just about really offering new ideas and a new way of thinking and a new way of understanding things. I had one patient tell me one time that she didn't want to come to my class because she said she didn't want me to teach her about eating white people's food. And I laughed at her because I'm that's just not a thing. It's that's a misconception about eating food with high nutrient values or eating nutritiously just in general. That's a common misconception. So now that same patient, she just started in my program. It's a 6-class program, and she just started a few weeks ago. And so she still has some of those walls up, but I was glad to just see her there, just to see her there. So for me, it's really just about kind of pushing through, breaking some of those boundaries in regards to mindset when it comes to certain things.
That is really awesome. And I know I run across that a little bit, probably not to the same extent, but like I said, I don't really do with kids, but you do see that mentality that people kind of have towards their life already. I think we have these preset notions about everything. And it's so intriguing when we get to pull people out of those notions to expose them to new things. Vanessa, did you want to touch on what you're passionate about?
So when I think about what I'm passionate about when it comes to women's health, there are 4 things that kind of stand out. I use it all the time. One of my most favorite African Adinkra symbols is Sankofa. Sankofa means to go back and get it, go back and reclaim our ancestral wisdom, and bring it back into present day and apply it. And so really, learning who we are is where it it starts. And so when you start to kind of embody the ancestral greatness and, knowing where we come from and the power and the creativity, and it's just, awe-inspiring, to be honest. And so really finding that foundation, going back to um, where it all started, and know that a lot of the things that we see in present day regarding health and wellness and the nutrient rich foods that was already discussed, it can be traced back to things that we have already been doing. And so Sankofa. The other one is representation. So finding our support networks, finding people who look like you, who have that shared interest in staying connected, having that village there, right? And so finding that support, finding your village, making sure that you can connect with others, again, who look like you. And then with that, informed decision making. Like, we need the information. There's so many people who come my way, whether it's in my own my businesses, or in my professional practice, that we just are we just don't have the knowledge when it comes to health overall. And so that can definitely set us back quite a way. So having the information so we can make informed decisions about our healthcare, and what we deserve and how to advocate for it. And then lastly, for me, which is huge, I'm a yoga instructor, is stress reduction. Like, the heaviness that we bear, from the generations of stress, and, that can go into epigenetics, like our DNA has been shifted. And so reducing our stress load is huge. Finding ways to have, that, again, that holistic wellness piece infused in healthcare, right? So that balance with finding your peace, meditation, yoga, sound therapy, Tai Chi. I'm in training to be a Tai Chi instructor. So finding those non-traditional ways that we haven't tapped into, whereas it's scientific. Like, these things are scientific. We have the evidence-based information that supports how they calm the nervous system, how it reduces stress. So stress reduction, and all of the events and things that I host, there's always that piece to allow those experiences to manifest for people, introducing them to those holistic stress reduction activities.
That is so, and it's actually a great way to introduce our next question, because stress is something that seems so incredibly prevalent. A little while back, I think I just kind of, going about my way, I would just ask people like, how are you doing? How's it going? And it seemed like everybody was just so heavy, like there was so much weight on them, so much stress. And with that also came like sickness or worry. And it was just really like hard to feel like the people around me were just really weighed down with things. And, you try to, offer that support and help people. But there's so many ways that we can be impacted by, I guess, stressful events, that it's kind of hard to keep our upbeatness there. So what I would love to ask y'all is, what is something to keep in mind as we navigate these difficult times? Sarah, would you like to start with that?
In regards to stress, I think that being proactive and planning is super, super helpful. So instead of just kind of like going through like day by day, because I know that like life tends to bog us down sometimes. Like, for instance, this week, I had planned out my week, but there were just some things I didn't get to, like I just couldn't do them. However, having the plan in place helps so that at least I can get some things done. So in regards to like nutrition, for instance, it's like having like I have a board on my refrigerator for like what meals I want to cook over the time span between like my grocery visits. And then I also have like ingredients that I need to use up that are in like the fridge, the freezer, the cabinet. That's been extremely helpful to me because it really helps me plan and it helps me to make better food decisions. So like within the context of nutrition, I feel like making the best decisions and not being like bogged down with stress, because stress and nutrition, just like any other health things are related, right? You can become very stressed out if you're not making food decisions that are in alignment with your goals or what it is that you want to achieve. And that can cause you to make more decisions that aren't in alignment, and the cycle just repeats. But if you can just take it a little step at a time and just kind of plan your grocery trips, plan out the things that you're going to eat. And I say this knowing that it's not as easy for some people based on like their schedules and their current workloads, but starting somewhere is super important.
Yeah, that is so true. Like you have to take that first step, no matter what it is. But really, when it comes to food, I think that it's just a first step. I know my first step is thinking, do I go to the grocery store or do I eat out? And eating out just feels so appealing, and it's just so convenient. But then there are times when I have to take the step back, and I'm like, nope, we got to go to the grocery store.
Yeah. And I'll say this too, because as you know, being a nutrition student, a part of our job is not just education, but a part of our job is also helping people to facilitate putting things into action. That's the piece of my job that I really, really focus on, because I'm not a theory-driven person. I'm a very like action-oriented, results-driven person. And I'm also that way as a practitioner. So if your nutrition need is me helping you figure out how to make a successful grocery trip, then that's what my job is to do as a dietitian. Like, it's not to, focus on some of the things that people think that we just focus on as dietitian, like helping you lose weight and all those other things, which are also important if that's your need, but some of those practical skills as well.
Just being able to keep them in place. One other thing too, and I just was hoping Anita could really pitch in on this as we go through these difficult times. Groceries are expensive. Everything seems to be so expensive. Did you want to speak to how we can navigate our finances during this time?
Sure, because it is. I mean, interest rates have gone up. It's been such a cycle. We had the pandemic, and again, I just focusing on women, but it's true of pretty much everyone. Those essential workers who tend to be women. So women really suffered during the pandemic, either losing their jobs, losing a lot of their income. So it inordinately impacted women and created a lot of stress. Now, true enough, a lot of money was put into the economy, not always reaching the women who really needed it the most, but a lot of money flooded into the economy. And so we began to have inflation, which again impacts women. So is it more expensive? I mean, you have fewer hours at whatever you're doing, and then you have higher prices at the grocery store. So it is a kind of a double whammy. And so I think the things that I would say, and it's little comfort if you don't have resources, but in general, and this is what I've always told my kids, it's just like Joseph in scripture. When you have times of plenty, you need to store up. So it's always good, no matter if you make a little or a lot, you've got to pay yourself first, which means you save part of what you make. Never spend more than you make. Try to live within your means. And I know I sound like a mom because I am a mom, but it is so much more comforting because, the times of famine or having less will come. Inflation is here now, but it will come under control. Those high interest rates are trying to tamp down on inflation. And so eventually things will return to normal, and you have to weather that. So my encouragement is, one, try to get a side gig. If you're just underemployed, you don't really have sufficient income in your primary work, a side gig is a good idea at this time. And there's a mismatch sometimes in the economy. There are a lot of jobs technically out there, but they may not match with what the person's particular skill is. So, women are opening more businesses than anyone now, much more so than men. That's the good news. The bad news is that sometimes we can be undercapitalized. So I say all that to say we just have to be creative, and we have to pay ourselves first, and just really stay hopeful, stay your course. If you've been saving, continue to do that, thick or thin, and you will, in the long run, be happy that you did.
That is so encouraging, be able to save no matter what your income level is, just to find a way to pay yourself first. And I love how you talked about women owning businesses, because as we know, Vanessa has several. Would you like to speak to that, Vanessa? Some of your businesses, and also what is something to keep in mind as we navigate difficult times?
Yes. Can I just back up a little bit? Did you hear a college student saving? Like, she already ahead of the game, right? And so many of us as adults that have trouble saving. So I applaud you. You're definitely going in the right direction. So businesses. As Mama Anita said, the undercapitalization, is definitely an issue. Being a Black entrepreneur, a Black woman entrepreneur. And so with that, I do have, to speak on them a little bit, the Miracle Happen Wellness and Birth Services. That's my doula service organization, full spectrum doula service organization, where we offer doula support for expecting families across the perinatal spectrum. So the goal is to reach them well before the labor experience, with prenatal education, support, teaching them about the movement modalities that can help them in labor and all that good stuff. Helping them dissect the medical terminology and the different tests that they may be, recommended to have, and just really being that listening ear, and the provider, the wellness provider that can kind of break it down for them as well. And then supporting during birth, and then following up in the postpartum period. And the postpartum period is just as critical as the prenatal period, right? Where, a lot of times we just forget about the mom, and, everyone is focused on baby. And so really having that support in the postpartum is crucial too. And then I also have Birth Workers United Incorporated, which is my nonprofit. And really, that's everybody, a huge village supporting families along their perinatal spectrum to help reduce our horrific Black maternal health and infant outcomes it's global. It's a global crisis, but, it's Wisconsin and Milwaukee in particular, our numbers are not right. And so that includes, the nurses, the doctors, the mental health specialists, the doulas, the social workers, anyone, that's passionate about prenatal support, postpartum support. If you have any type of service, any type of wellness service, the financial, how do you prepare for a new baby? How will that shift your household income? Like, even that piece is crucial too. The process. So Birth Workers United is everybody under one umbrella, coming together, utilizing our networking capabilities to support families. We're always looking for visionaries to join arms with us. So, definitely, if anyone's out there listening and is interested, please reach out, because we need you. And then Yoga with Vanessa, my yoga business, where we get on the mat, and I like to say, leave it on the mat, whatever that may be. What no longer serves you, we're leaving it on that mat, in that moment, in that space. I think that's it. Yeah, those three. Those are the core ones for right now. The wheels are always turning. But as far as, what's something to keep in mind from, if I tune into the RN hat as we navigate these difficult times, is that you are not alone. You are not alone. When we have our sister circles that I facilitate, or even in our yoga class, at the end of it, there's always this conversation. And even before, sometimes we can't even get to the yoga practice, because that need have those conversations, to feel that connection, definitely coming slowly out of this pandemic. Those conversations and that need for connection and sharing is just astronomical right now. And so knowing that you are not alone, that the feelings that you may be experiencing, we're all feeling it. And so tapping into those networks again, that support village, sitting at the feet of our elders, like, man, the wisdom that's there. I can remember, I'm a seasoned mom now, and my big baby will be 25. And a seasoned woman, I'm entering into that next stage of life, where I'm like, hey, what's happening here? Why do I feel like this? Why is this happening? What is going on with this in my body? And then when I talk to my mom, or I talk to my aunt, or talk to one of my elder friends, it's like, oh yeah, we know about that. Okay, well, why you didn't tell me? Like, when can we sit down and talk about this? Like, we need to talk for real. And so, sitting at the feet of our elders and listening and learning and letting them know that we want to hear their words and their thoughts. A lot of them feel like, hey, these young folks don't want to hear, listen to us. And so really tapping into the resources, man, is so important. So knowing you're not alone is my takeaway from that.
Yeah, that's a really important moment right now too, as since we all feel so disconnected. I think that's the biggest thing from the pandemic that I've seen has impacted so many people is that feeling of isolation. And it just kind of seems as though it's never fully recovered. I don't know, like I see people, you see people, but it's like, a lot of us are still so isolated in our homes or in our own spaces. So it's really important for us to get out there and connect with people. And I'm glad that you touched on that. Um, as we've all explained, there's so many things that need to be addressed here. And honestly, we need to be able to provide these resources, and some people may not even know where to get them. Um, the next question I have for y'all today is how can women find these resources or people be able to share these resources? Vanessa, would you like to start with that one?
Yeah. So, listen, we're in a time and day where social media is just taking over, right? But we can use it. We can use it. Um, I've used it where, if I am having an issue, I put a post. Anybody know about this? Anyone experiencing this? Like I was recently last year, just to put it out there, I was last April, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And I'm like, what? Nobody in my family, nobody that I know. Let me go to Facebook. Anybody know about Crohn's disease? Anybody experience, dealing with it? And immediately someone was in my inbox, saying that she has a friend, her brother. She'll reach out, see if they'll reach out to me. And we made those connections. That same exact day, I was ordering a cookbook on Amazon based upon her friends, recommendations. So, utilizing social media, make a post. Don't be afraid to ask for your resources. The Google searches, using this World Wide Web to find the information is that you can Google everything. But definitely, that social media piece where that people are scrolling all day, every day, and they're sharing, you would be surprised of your reach if you just ask the question. And then, of course, there's the more, what's the word? I don't know if it's professional or what, but like the 211 resource number, that's always being spoke of. But as we know, for providers who have had to call on behalf of our patients, that can be a bit difficult to like navigate and get resources in that way. But it is something that's available. But I'd say tap into that social media connections if you can.
Yeah, I agree with the social media because, all of my platforms pretty much exist on social media. It's been able to help me grow. It's been able to help me find resources as well. Like Vanessa said, you can literally go on Instagram, you can go on TikTok and search like for specific dietitians that have expertise. And so that's another thing. Like as a dietitian, I realized that like we specialize in so many different things. So if you want a dietitian that's an expert on pre-diabetes, like you are able to find that. If you want a dietitian that is an expert on Crohn's disease, for instance, and like a Crohn's disease diet, you're able to find that through, the internet. So that's like a wonderful resource for nutrition specifically. One thing that people like are always asking about resources for in regards to like food insecurity, you can go online and like look at your area's local food banks and food pantries, see where they have their distributions at, see when they are. So that's another important resource that is food related, especially during these times where people are kind of struggling to make a dollar stretch.
Yeah, that's a big one. There's, I think, a couple of pantry sites near me, and I'm like, there's some really cool things over there. Um, One of the things that really surprised me more so recently, I don't know if I should say surprised, but it just kind of provoked my thought, too, with the pantry resources is, people always ask, like, what do I donate? And, obviously we hear a lot of shelf stable foods or things that don't expire quickly, anything that doesn't necessarily have to be refrigerated. But one day someone was like, "Yo, why doesn't anyone just donate some can openers?" And it just really opened your eyes like, wow, like that's not, I guess, the most profound thing ever, but it kind of
Yeah,
makes you think like, but certain people, like they might not have can openers, they might not.
yeah,
And there are so many more things that have been donated recently that all these different nonprofits have and they have available, and they're more than willing to give it out and help people. So I think a lot of times these food pantries, they're kind of they have a stigma to them, and any really public anything that's like free or presumed as a community support, they have a little bit of a stigma to them. And it's so sad to me because it's there for a reason. It's there to be able to help people. So thank you for really touching on that and bringing that up. It's not always streamlined, as Vanessa tapped into. It's not always the most easy thing, but being able to go there is such a really impactful way to be able to get help and necessary. Anita, would you like to talk a bit about like what are some resources for finances?
Sure. I think, well, starting in the beginning, if there's like financial distress, like people are looking for resources, I would start with your city, your county. They usually have directories around things like, for instance, in Racine, they have the Financial Empowerment Center. And that's just a nonprofit. You can go there, get help with budgets and with your debt and that sort of thing. There's housing resources to just help you to buy your first home, that sort of thing. But in finances in general, and of course I have a bias because I work for a financial firm. I mean, even just going on the internet and, for instance, there's an app called Merrill Edge, and it gives you a lot of basic information about saving and investing. And I think, again, what the first step is saving, but then once you save, you have to start investing. And that's just a basic of starting to make your money work for you. And I think that's not been talked about enough in our community, is how to make your money work for you. I mean, you work for your money, but then your money has to work for you. And having more than one stream of income is just so important, not even just in retirement, but just in your day-to-day life. And so going on to those sites like that and just learning bits and pieces about basic investing is so important, because I think it can be intimidating to people, just like with medical terms and that sort of thing. People can be intimidated and you don't know what you don't know. And so it's a good place to start. And I always have a bit of caution around people just taking financial advice from Joe Schmo, for instance, because for the longest time, like my son, for example, young men were really intrigued by cryptocurrency, right? And the technology, blockchain it will have many uses and people will get wealthy from that. But most people did not understand cryptocurrency, and people lost a lot of money. And that's typically my advice overall, is invest in what you understand. That's most likely to be the return for you, is invest in things that you can understand, that are simple and straightforward. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And so I think just for information, going to financial institutions are, they can seem intimidating, but credit unions and banks have a ton of just basic financial information to at least get you started, so that then you can branch out. And there's a lot of information out there, especially on sites like I said, a Merrill Edge site, because there is a huge wealth gap. I mean, I think that's even a misnomer. You hear about the wealth gap between minorities and the majority culture. I would say it's more akin to a wealth chasm. It's a chasm, and a big part of that is because people don't have a lot of financial education. So I really I admire these ladies, the things that they're doing, the women, the things they're doing is really fascinating. So I just definitely have to hook up with you guys after this, because that's just the very thing that our community needs to start to really build wealth. But it starts with just asking those questions, going on those websites, connecting with financial institutions. They do have a lot of information, and it is there for you.
That's one of the biggest surprises that I had. I think a lot of times people are like, oh, the banks, like, I don't rock with the banks. And I'm not here to just say like I 100% advocate for every bank ever,
Right.
simply because I don't know what all they do behind closed doors. But I do know that my local bank back home, at one point they were hosting, like, they had little like how to build your credit things, or like how can you open up a CD. And like you said, we got to invest in things we know about. So I didn't know what a CD was. I was like, are we going to play music? Like, are we going to hit the jams, And I found out that means certificate of deposit. So, I started asking more questions. I asked my dad, my granddad, the lady at the bank. The poor lady at the bank probably got 1,000 questions for me. But I was just like, hey, like, what's going on here? And every step of the way, people were helpful. They were just really open to explaining things to me. And now I feel more confident investing in that. So that's really cool that you brought that up and were able to explain that to us. So as we kind of go forward today, closing out, I just wanted to ask you guys the big question that we've all been leading up to here is there something you've learned during your career that you wish more people knew about?
That I really wished that, and even though my dad told me this, but people don't always do it. You have your first job, and they have a 401k, right, a retirement plan, and they match. And many times young people will not save at least enough to get the match, which is free money. And then when you're younger, you change jobs a lot, right? And your 401k, it's like, oh, there's not that much in there. And so you either leave it or you take it out and you spend it or something like that, instead of just rolling it into the next job's 401k. Because I tell you what, there are wealthy people that you just really wouldn't suspect. And it's the average Joe in the little house that just saved a few bucks every paycheck. And that's the millionaire next door. It's the person that saved little by little over all those years, and they're doing great. So I wish I had known in the beginning. It's like, work with what you have, and just even a little bit. It is like that, an acorn, right? And so I just really wish I had taken that to heart when I was much younger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense when I think about it, because I'm just like, a lot of times, financial services and just like financial education, like you kind of said, it's been maybe marketed more so to one group of people, instead of just showing people like you can have financial sustainability and work a regular 9-to-5. You don't have to be like a millionaire to do it. For me, I think like from a nutrition aspect, I would say like that nutrition is not an all or nothing sort of thing. You can lead a very healthy life. You can make good nutrition decisions and also eat food that is enjoyable to you. And food that you don't hate. You don't have to, drink green juices every day and, do all of like these sort of like fad things. Not to say that there's anything wrong with green juices, but I think that, the overall thing about people having this idea about what health is, what is healthy. Health comes in a lot of different forms. Nutrition looks different around the world. So you want to really think about like what is actually nourishing your body, what makes you feel good, what makes it so that you have the adequate amount of nutrients in your body when you go to the doctor, your labs check out. And then if you have some discrepancies there, that's what, dietitians are for. That's what nutrition professionals are for, to help you navigate those discrepancies.
That is so true. I'm learning about them right now, and I'm like, wow, but it's interesting that you bring up the labs too, because it's like you were saying, if your person doesn't really know, they don't know. So, you go to the doctor and they may say like, oh, your iron is low. Well, okay, what am I supposed to do? Take an iron pill and not be able to go to the bathroom? That's most people's immediate reaction.
Exactly.
But it could be something as simple as like, okay, well, maybe you need to eat a little bit more spinach or something, just sprinkle it in there here and there, and bring it into your life. It doesn't always have to feel so intimidating and intense.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you saying that,
Yeah. And speaking to the whole iron thing, even knowing that there are non-constipating iron supplements out there, you just have to know where to go to find the right person to help you find those things.
Yep. So, so with all of these different things that you've learned during your career, oh, by the way, Vanessa, did you want to speak to that too?
Sure. I was just thinking about my early years as a nurse, and I can remember I used to work, we used to call it 770, 7 days on and 7 off. And on that off week, all the nurses, we had other jobs, we were picking up other full shifts. And when I reflect on it now and how I move in my profession, that 7 days off should have been rest. Like finding that balance, like you can create the life, work-life balance that really it supports optimal health, right? Like Sarah said, what does health look like? We forget that, we go to the gym, we worry about our food, we worry about, our waistline and all of that. But what are we doing for that mental health? What are we doing for, just finding that balance, that peace, the grounding? And so instead of feeling as though we have to work, be workaholics, and it's okay to tap into our creativity or have that vision, that dream for a different way. So I just really wish at the time, for myself and other people who are starting out in their careers, and from a health standpoint, that tapping in and finding ways again to find that work-life balance where your work life supports your optimal health goals. I can recall a post recently that someone shared on social media. He was a principal, an educator, struggled with high blood pressure for years, all the medication, nothing was bringing on his blood pressure. He quit, found a job that wasn't as stressful, and his blood pressure numbers are great now. And he was so surprised at just that change, that release of that stress load, fixed something that he had been struggling with for years. And so I think that's what would be, again, my takeaway is, again, finding that balance, using those holistic health tools to really figure out a way to be more emotionally sound and mentally sound.
Yeah, that is so important right now, especially during this season. We're coming out of the winter time, and that seasonal depression is real. The seasonal affective disorders are so real. And it goes, from a finance aspect too. We just left the holiday season, and you're in between Christmas and your income taxes. I think most people are not in the best space, and then when you go to your health, so many people are vitamin D deficient, or they're just not getting that sunlight in there. Obviously it's a time of year where when we're working on our family relationships, sometimes it can be really good and sometimes it can be strained if we don't really have that support system. And like you were saying, these mental health things and these just social things are really important to take into consideration. And I appreciate all three of you for touching on all these different important components of life, things that we really can't ignore and we don't need to neglect because it kind of compounds over time. Something that I think is going to be my catchphrase before too long is that time compounds things. The longer you go without addressing these things in your life, learning these things, the more that it starts to become a problem. Even as far as, you know, our reproductive health, so many people don't understand like having a regular cycle, or what do I do if I were to become pregnant? What are the resources that I need? How do I take care of my body, and how can my partner support me? It just continues to kind of spill throughout our life, and all the things that y'all have talked about are really interconnected. Thank you so much for, you know, having this great conversation today.
I will say, if you guys have questions later on, please feel free to reach out to me on social media. My Instagram is at Nutrition with Intention RD, like the letter R, letter D, Nutrition with Intention RD. On TikTok at Nutrition with Intention. And then my website is www.nutritionwithintention.co. If you sign up for the email list, I'm putting together some exclusive recipe content over the next few weeks that you'll have access to. So please, if you decide to visit my website, go ahead and sign up for the email list so that you can be a part of that.
Yes. And also, I put Sarah, Anita, and Vanessa's LinkedIns. They're in the comments. And I know that there are other places you might want to find them. Anita, did you want to share where people can find you?
Absolutely. Because I work for a firm. So I'm on LinkedIn, but none of the other social media in a really highly regulated profession. So I'm not, but definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn. My email and phone number should be on there, and that is the best way to contact me. I'm happy to answer any questions or, you know, give any advice. I especially love young people who, you know, when you're first starting out and just have a lot of questions, and no question is dumb unless you don't ask it. So definitely feel free to contact me.
Thank you so much. And just know that I'm going to probably call you before too long too. And Vanessa, would you like to share where we can find you?
Yeah, feel free to reach out. Nurturing Miracles on all social media platforms. Website nurturingmiracles.com. Vanessa Johnson at nurturingmiracles.com for my email. Definitely would love to connect.
Thank you. Well, I think pretty much brings us to the end of our time here. I really and truly appreciate you guys coming on today and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with us. Thank you so much to everyone for joining. If you would like to see more of these, you know, just reach out to me. Let me know. Maybe we could put together another event in the future. But for now, everyone stay warm and stay safe and have a happy day.